Hey, friends and family out there and through the Black land, welcome to the show tonight, guys. This is going to be a great show tonight. Very excited just about our guest, and I want to share with you tonight. Tonight is a prodigal story, okay? And many of you guys know the story of the prodigal son. It was a son who wanted all of his inheritance, and he wanted to go run wild, okay? And then he took a look around, and then he saw, hey, this is not working out so great. So he went back to his home, to his father, and his father saw him from a long way off and went to him. And then I want to read to you what his father said in Luke chapter 15, verse 22. He said, "But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring me the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." Praise God. Praise God. The story that is in the red letters is familiar to all of us. Every conference I go to, I hear people come to me and they talk about prodigals. And that's probably just one of the top questions we get, or one of the top prayer requests we get is, will you pray for my son? Will you pray for my daughter, my grandchild, whatever it is? Tonight, this is a story that hits very close to home for me, and it hits so close to home that it hits home, okay? So, guys, just appreciate you guys doing everything that you're doing, and we're going to get started, okay? God bless you. Hey guys, what's up? This is the Through the Black show. Hey, my name is Tom. Her name is Vicky. What's going on? Vic, have you noticed I have a friend here? She's got no audio. This, my friends, okay, there she is. Are you coming in?
Man, I was muted.
Okay.
I know where I stand here. No, I was going to say, I always like it when we have a guest on, because then I can just sit back and drink my coffee and listen, throw in a few. So it's like a night off.
Well, hey, this is somebody that you met a few months ago.
Yep.
So anyway, man, everybody that was at the Go Therefore conference back in the summer knows the story of my son Elijah, and we're going to go a little bit more into that story tonight. And in order to do that, I asked him to come, and he said yes. So here he is, man. This is super cool, because for me, I've had my daughter on the show. I've had my youngest son on the show, and now my oldest son. Didn't know that was going to happen. So Very cool. Vic, when are you going to bring your dad on or something? Or
Yeah, we have had several requests for that, and I'm a little afraid of the dad jokes that might
yeah,
happen live, irretractable
let's
dad
pray
jokes.
about that before we do it.
Yeah, but seriously, I think it's so cool that we're doing this tonight. And Elijah, thanks so much for being willing to do this. A lot of people don't really necessarily want to get up and air their dirty laundry or their private life or their personal stuff, and uh, but I do find that testimonies are such a powerful encouragement to other people. So I'm so glad you're willing to do this.
Yes. Thank you guys for having me. I really like. I don't even know what to say, honestly.
Well, before we get into it, we do want just to make the normal announcements. Throughtheblack.com is the website. But Vic, as you know, there is another site called nomoredeadbabies.com, and that's the campaign that we're pushing. Okay. So if you don't know about that, we're not going to talk about it a lot tonight, but there's a website that you can go to get a free t-shirt that says exactly that: no more dead babies. I did a show on it earlier today about the Satanic Temple started up their own abortion clinic in New Mexico. So you guys can go check that out. Folks, the Satanic Temple, they are not ashamed of what they're doing. So why are we ashamed of trying to save babies? And we're asking people to level up, about 5 levels here, and just say, hey, we're going to get bold about this, and we're going to be confrontational in a way that we want to be a voice for the voiceless. Mm-hmm. And we're praying as we wear these shirts when we get them, Lord, use us to reach somebody with this message. So guys, we've talked a lot about it. We're not going to get into a whole lot about it tonight, but all of it ties together into what we're doing. Okay. And check that out. nomoredeadbabies.com is the website. You can go get a free shirt there. You can join us. There's going to be more stuff coming down the road. We'll let you know about. This is the first part of the campaign. The shipping, by the way, on the shirts is $7. So we've seen a lot of people order, but there could be a problem with what's going on with the page. There could be some glitches or something. So be looking out maybe for an email that we could send you. And if you're having problems getting through, keep trying. Okay. That's all I can say. Some people are sending us a message saying it's not working. Keep trying. I don't know what's going on. Try it on a different computer or a different phone or something like that. But thank you guys so much for supporting us. According to what we know, we have almost 50 orders, but there could be something wrong with some of them. So look out for an email if we need to get a message to you about your order, about the payment not coming through. So guys, anyway, hey, Vic, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have my oldest son with me. This is super cool. I've been thinking about this, Elijah. Probably besides your mom, there's nobody that knows you and has seen you your whole life, dude. Yeah. I was there the moment he was born, right? And what's crazy is he's 29 years old now for 29 years, okay? And the moment he was born, and I told this story before, I was so excited about you being born that I prayed to God. I said, Lord, don't let me take my eyes off of you. I am so excited about this boy, that I don't want to forget about the ministry, the mission, And God answered that prayer because we still did ministry, and we had a baby boy, and somebody says Elijah is a really cool name. Thank you. That was my idea. I was reading in the Book of Kings, and I came up with that. So anyway, Elijah, like I was saying, you and we have been together literally from the beginning, beginning. And so it's been kind of a crazy life that I've led, that you've led, and we were together for 18 years, and then we separated. But And Vic, you can jump in and ask questions, and we're just going to have a conversation here tonight. What do you remember just about your early life? Like what, like what good memories, or what do you remember about growing up? What's it like to be Tom's kid when when you're real young?
Well, grew up in church, went every Sunday, and when I was real little, we didn't really do Wednesday church too much, but once we got to Free Methodist, I was going to youth group every Wednesday night. One thing about every Sunday is we got to go to Fazoli's every single day. I don't know if very many people know or where everybody's from, but Fazoli's is very well known in this town, and it was an exciting day every Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, seriously, that's what we did.
That was our family tradition for I don't know how many years, at least
long
18
time.
years.
Well, and here's the thing: we used to live in Tennessee when you
Yeah.
were just 1 year old,
Mhm.
and they had a Fazoli's down there. And we're like, man, we really like this restaurant, and we were planning on moving back to Mansfield. And then we found out they were building one there. We're like, oh, right, this is a sign from the Lord,
Confirmation.
that we're making the right decision to go back to Mansfield. So it was all about the free breadsticks. So hey, in the chat or in the comments, let us know if you've ever eaten at Fazoli's. So but yeah, so anyway, yeah, we did eat at Fazoli's a lot, and we went to church. Do you feel like going to church, growing up, going to church and going to Sunday school had any kind of an impact on you, like as far as your spirituality is concerned?
I think it did. I feel like it affects all kids differently in a sense. I loved going, and I had a lot of friends there just from growing up. I trying to think.
So, like, do you remember like anything like a Sunday school teacher or even a preacher or somebody that kind of like had an impact on you?
I'm not, at least not from very young, like at Lincoln Heights.
Mm-hmm.
But one that always did stand out to me was our youth leader, Nate, when we got to Free Methodist. And I've been meaning to get a hold of him here recently. Yeah,
he was somebody that you,
yeah. He has gone through a lot of the same things, and I didn't know it at the time, but he was telling me a lot of the things that I was going to be going through, and he kind of like overcame already. So it was kind of, I don't know. I really, I used to have like meetings with him too. When I was younger, and
yeah.
Hey, Elijah, I'm curious because I think this has kind of happened to a lot of people who were raised in church, as was I. Did you get to a point kind of like maybe in high school where you almost felt like you had a double life, and it wasn't like you were genuinely trying, you were just trying to figure it out? Like you'd be at youth group and you genuinely like your friends there, and you would genuinely know the scriptures and believe the things that you were taught.
Yeah.
But then outside of church, it was like, where does this fit in the real world? And which is the real me, the one that's going to the rock concerts or the one that's going to youth group? Like, did you struggle with that?
Oh, 100%. When I moved schools quite a bit when I was young, I was in a Christian school my first 2 years, and then I wasn't calling the shots, so I'm not really sure why I wasn't there for the rest of the time, but I ended up leaving there. I was getting homeschooled for about 2 to 3 years. And then from there, I didn't really, besides just church friends. I didn't really have like school interactions. And once I got back, I went like after I was homeschooled, I went to an inner city school, and I instantly felt like an outcast. And then I was that as soon as I went to public schools again is when I feel like it really like went downhill. It was like like just being around other kids really kind of brought me down in a sense.
And you've shared with me you had a real desire to want to fit in, to make friends, right?
Oh yeah. And ever since I was little, I was always like very friendly with everybody. I wanted to be everybody's friend. And as soon as I started going to school again, that's just who I was. I wanted to have friends or just be cool with everyone. And it was very different for me to get bullied constantly. Like I didn't have I had very few friends, which is okay with me, but I didn't want to be like made fun of or seem like I felt like I was someone not to be hung around, really.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it felt. Once I started going to public schools again, I was only at the one for a year. And then I got transferred to the school that I ended up graduating from. And it took me, I started in 5th grade at that school. It took me years to not get bullied and kind of like people to not like me be a target, I guess. It wasn't until my sophomore year at high school that I didn't get pretty much bullied anymore. So, but at that point, that was kind of like the biggest like turning point for me. I was just introduced to a lot of things.
And I know that you kind of wanted to please people. You wanted people to be your friend.
Yeah.
And you were kind of willing to do things to be friends with people. And I know that was very important to you. Now, looking back, and some of these things you told me, I didn't realize all these things,
Yeah.
And it makes a lot more sense now. Now, I know several instances where you were bullied. And I even had to go talk to the principal one time and tell him if he didn't handle this situation, I said, the next move is I'm calling the police. I'm getting the police involved. And I think he handled that particular situation.
Yeah.
But kids are kids, right? And this happens. Doesn't make it okay. But, I found out that my daughter was bullied years after the fact. I had no clue. I had no clue this was going on. And when she told me about it, I really got upset. I was like, if you would have told me this, I would have done something. But it was kind of one of those things where it was like, okay, if you tell anybody, you're going to get embarrassed, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. So it was a fear to tell,
Yeah.
And let me say this. My kids went to a good school.
Yeah.
When I got them signed up to go to this school, I began crying walking down the hall because I thought, wow, this is a learning environment compared to the school that you came out of.
Yeah.
So even in a school that was pretty good, there was still a lot of things going on that, that they're trying to keep under control, but they couldn't. So,
Well, and Tom, I just kind of want to backtrack a little bit for anyone who's listening, because this being bullied and parents not having any idea, I don't know if that's the case anymore, because the younger generations are a lot better about and a lot freer to share their feelings than our generation was. But at least in our generation, I got bullied a lot, and I didn't come home and tell my parents, because to me it was humiliating. I didn't want my parents to know, hey, I'm a loser and nobody at school likes me. Like I wasn't going to advertise that. And I also didn't want to be perceived as weak. Like I need my mommy to come in and fix my problems. I'm 14 years old and I still, you know what I mean? So there's a whole bunch of pride and shame and insecurity and rejection that's going on at that age where I don't think a lot of kids, at least in our generation, we're going to go home and tell parents that, because my dad has the same issue that you do, Tom. It's like he found out when I was in my 30s, you know, that I was like bullied to death in junior high. And it's like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? There wouldn't have been anything worse than my dad showing up mad as heck and making a scene. And I would have gotten it 10 times worse after that. So I don't know that it's the same situation now, because I do think that there's more of an awareness of bullying, and I think the repercussions of bullying gets so much more severe in our generation, in this generation. So I don't know if I know bullying is still a problem, but I don't know if kids not wanting to share it with their parents is still a problem.
That I'm not too sure of, if bullying is still like really a thing. I know when at some point in either middle school or high school, they were like really like kind of campaigning against like bullying and like really trying to get it to stop. But I feel like it still kind of went on, but it wasn't like,
you know,
the biggest thing,
right? But... and the crazy thing about this, okay, is they've taken it to an extreme, like they always do. They can't handle anything in moderation. So now, if you have a different opinion than somebody, then you're bullying them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that bullying has taken on a different face nowadays too. You don't have to harass the kids in plain sight at school in front of the teachers and maybe get caught. Now you can go home and bully them online all night under a screen name. And so I don't necessarily think that there's not bullying in the schools anymore. I just think it goes on at a different time of day.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Elijah, in your life, a lot of things happened within a couple years. Okay. Your mom and I got a divorce. Your mom gets remarried. I get remarried. We move a couple different times. And then you get new siblings. Okay. And your living situation. So you went from being an older brother, okay, to sharing space with others. And then, there's younger siblings that come along, and everything just kind of happened within just a few years. And of course, I'm going through different things, and your mom is going through different things. And I look back on this now, and I have in the last few years, and I think about, we're so worried about ourselves as parents that we miss what's going on with our kids. And we're like, oh, they'll be okay. They'll be all right. He'll be all right. He's doing good. And you can look at him like, yeah, he's doing all right. But that wasn't necessarily the case. And then, Vic, one of the things that happened with me, and this was kind of an extreme change, and I want to kind of talk about this a little bit, is I found Russ Dizdar. And I began taking Russ Dizdar's courses. And then I'm like, I began doing some cleanup in my own life. And I'm like, man, no wonder I'm getting my butt kicked all the time. I got all my doors open and the devil's walking into my house. So I began to close spiritual doors, and I began to get real sensitive to dark spirituality. Okay. So I'm looking around and I'm noticing things in our lives. I'm like, okay, we're not watching these movies anymore. I don't want to listen to this music. I want to be careful, what I do. And then as an instinct to protect my kids, I do the same thing. And as he's coming up, I'm saying, okay, yeah, I don't want you to listen to that music or whatever. And my effort to protect him was something that pushed him away. So when I talk to parents about this, I warn them about what I did. And this is a very, very real thing. And Elijah and I talked a little bit about this before, but can you kind of respond to what I just said?
Yeah. So going back to just my timeline of just moving different schools and stuff like that, and not really getting bullied anymore to a certain point to where I finally am like, I got a few friends. Nobody's like paying attention to me anymore, pretty much. And I just wanted friends at that point, or just like something. I wanted, pals. And once I got to that age, you kind of were starting to crack down on certain things. And me being a rebellious kid and not really thinking about anything about what, a 15 to 18-year-old kid should be thinking about, he's, I'm going to rebel. And,
So, but just so people have a little bit more context, Elijah, he grew up going to a Christian music festival, and we listened to mostly Christian music in our house. And then when I went through a divorce, I compromised and I kind of began listening to stuff that I probably shouldn't have been listening to. And, he's riding shotgun all the time. He's hearing this. And then he's making friends that are listening to other types of music. And I'm just like trying to protect him. And I remember okay, I got to check this stuff out. I want to find out what's going on. I went from one extreme to the other, really. And I remember seeing some lyrics in some of the CDs. And I'm like, dude, this is straight up satanic. Now, this is what I want to say to parents. Okay. My son had no interest in Satanism or being involved in it. Okay. But his interest in the music was more social, I think, than anything, and entertainment than anything. Okay. Now, here's the thing. People are going to say, well, Tom, you were right to keep that out, or, to fight against that. I agree and I disagree. Okay. Because every single child is different. Okay. And we just kind of explained some of the dynamics that were going on in his life that I didn't realize, and I didn't realize the importance of these things. And there are probably 5 better ways I could have handled that than what I did. My intentions were good. My intentions were to protect my son. Okay. But it kind of backfired on me. So if you're listening, to this right now, because we get messages all the time, my kid is doing this, my kid's struggling with this. You know what? They got to want to own it. Okay. You can't make them do it. You can, but they're going to find a way to do it anyway. Okay. And, it can make things worse in the long run. Okay. Let me say that. I would rather, our kids listen to something that's a little risque or a little bit this or that, than go down the roads that they could go down when we kind of push them away. This is natural. This is normal. We know this, right? How many times have we heard this story? Well, my parents pushed me away. I heard the same story about my grandfather and his daughters, okay, which one was my mom, one was my aunt, okay? And a similar thing happened, and in a way, history kind of repeated itself. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to help him, and I wanted to protect him, but I didn't understand all the dynamics. So that's the reason we're having this conversation tonight. There could be things that you don't know. Chances are that your kid, and people are going to disagree with this, okay? Chances are that your kid listening to something that's dark or some heavy metal music, it's very unlikely that's going to turn them into a Satanist. Okay? Can you talk a little bit more about that, Vic?
Yeah. So I got to tell this story. It so fits here perfectly. Very recently, I saw this little 10-minute YouTube video, and it's a somewhat famous stand-up comedian who happens to be married to a born-again Christian. So one day, this famous comedian was having lunch with a husband-wife couple that was his wife's Bible study leaders. And the comedian's not really into the whole Christianity thing, but he's doing this as a favor to his wife, and he's having lunch with this stereotypical husband and wife from the church kind of thing. Well, he's meeting up afterwards with James Hetfield, the lead singer of Metallica, heavy metal band, right? So James ends up showing up, sits down, and is having lunch with this couple, and they have no idea who he is or what he stands for or what he does for a living. They've never heard of him. Eventually, it comes out who he is, and they put 2 and 2 together, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're that band our son listens to. We've been praying that he would stop listening to your music." And without missing a beat, James said, "Well, maybe you should ask him why he's listening to me," you know? And that was so poignant for me because of all the years that I was struggling, you know, and my struggles were different than yours, Elijah, but it was the same thing. My whole life was an upheaval. The carpet got pulled out from underneath me. I was trying to deal with adult things and surgeries and bullying and all this stuff. And I was in over my head. I didn't have the capacity to deal with the crumbling around me. And to me, that music matched the chaos of my life. And it was like, there is someone out there that understands. Because when you go to church, especially when you're a kid, everything is Jesus loves you and everything's wonderful and everything's happy. And you're like, this is not my life. Everyone's so happy. Everyone's got this smile painted on. It doesn't make sense to me. So when you finally connect with someone else who sees what you see, that the world is really a mess and it's full of these vampires sucking the life out of you, and someone understands that. And I just thought, if one person had asked me at 12, 13, 14 years old, why are you listening to this music? Not, what do you like this crap for? You know, like, because as soon as an adult acts like that, you're like, oh, cool. You know, I'm bugging the adults, right? If one person had just asked me, why does something this dark appeal to you? And if they had kind of helped me in my childish mind come to a real answer to that question and gotten to the real root of that pain and confusion I was feeling, I might have been helped by it. So to go along with what Tom is saying here, there are ways that we can drive our kids deeper and deeper into these dark things unwittingly. And just asking the question, like, you don't even have to ask your kid, just asking yourself as a parent, I'm raising my kid in the church. I'm teaching him about Jesus Christ and morals and truth and the gospel. What is driving my child's heart to associate with such dark things? Because if we're glomming onto something that dark, there's something connecting there. And, you know, you can blame it on friends and you can blame it on social media and you can blame it on, you know, the devil and all this stuff. But at some point, there's something in that child's heart that is connecting with that darkness. And we as parents or as adults or as youth group leaders have to put ourselves into those shoes and say, let's get to the heart of what is in this kid's heart that is latching onto this and finding hope in it. Because as crazy as it sounds, when your life is in chaos, you're finding a bizarre sort of hope in darkness rather than finding hope in the light that's going to take you out of it. And we need adults at that age to help us navigate through that.
Yeah, amazing. Any response?
Yeah, I think one thing for me about that particular type of music was I didn't really necessarily care what they were saying. I was just listening for the music. And whether you're listening for the music or the lyrical content, so like if you're just in it for the music, but you're not actually paying attention to the lyrics, that stuff can actually have a hold on you, whether you know it or not. Like,
yeah,
like, and sometimes you can't even understand what they're saying,
right?
You know? And
so, well, you know, and it was hard. Okay, it was hard because I was very aware of dark spirituality. Okay, because I train with the number one guy in the world, right? And one time Elijah comes home and we're doing his laundry, or his laundry goes through. Do you remember this? And I pull out this shirt and I was like, man, this sounds familiar. What is this? This sounds real familiar.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hold on. This is one of the statements out of the Satanic Bible on this t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
And dude,
I had no idea.
He had no idea. It was just a band that he liked. And I'm just like, I confiscated that shirt. And I'm like, I don't want to give this back to him. I don't want him to wear this. This is a curse. And you and I, we kind of got into it, remember?
Yeah.
And I finally gave you the shirt back because it was yours.
Yeah.
But
and I lost it probably within like a couple of weeks or something.
So,
like that, so.
But folks, I want to. Okay, so here is a comment by K Beth. I genuinely asked the Lord a few days ago what I should do about my son's behavior problems, and He responded, "Love him." What does that look like? What does that look like? You know, and Elijah, now that I'm older, I'm more mature, and I've learned some things, and it's sad to say your younger brother Gavin is coming up, and he has interest in music. So my approach to him was totally different.
Yeah,
and I wish I would have known that with you. Okay, it could have saved us a lot of heartache, but we're talking about it now, and I think that's the important thing. So, prayer, love, and prayer. Okay, God's, prayer to a holy God who listens to us is, I came to a point that I realized that was going to be more powerful than anything I could say to Elijah is what I could say to God. So, and we'll talk about this. There came a time where I backed way off of the preaching, right? Yeah. Where I was like, there's nothing else I can say. I've said everything. He knows it. I don't need to say a thing. I just need to love him. And that's what I tried to do for a long time.
That's completely right. I grew up around this. It's in my blood. And I knew what I was doing. I was going with the world, honestly. I was just I feel like I sold myself out for friends. And I got involved with a lot of things that I shouldn't have, especially at the ages that I was. I started the first night I smoked a cigarette, you caught me. And it just kind of like, I don't know. I was.
Well, and I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that you got away with, but that did happen, right? Yeah. Because we did catch you. Yeah. And there were times where you're like, how are you guys catching us do this? Right. And it was my wife and I mean, that just kind of strengthened us. Was we had to have a united front to go after these boys because it was a war in our own house. Right. Mm-hmm. So, Elijah, when you turned to 18, you kind of made the decision to leave home, and I can't say that I blame you. Okay. Yeah. I know that I was not an easy dad to live with, and I know you can look back now and be like, oh man, my dad just cared about me, and he didn't know how to respond to these things. Yeah. And so, I'm thinking of something that happened right before we went to Haiti. Yeah. I got a call from the school. Yeah. And you were in the, the nurse's office. Mm-hmm. And they said your heart was racing so fast that they didn't know if you would have to go to the emergency room or not. Yeah. And then, obviously, I went over there. I picked you up. Mm-hmm. And I'm questioning you, and you're not telling me the truth about what you did. Mm-hmm. and you came home and laid down on the couch, and I'm praying, I'm praying over you and stuff, and praying about this. And this is right before we took a trip to Haiti on a mission trip.
Mm-hmm.
So can you, share what you think would be, beneficial, because you took probably some kind of pill that day or something, or
I did. I can't remember the name of it. It was probably an Adderall. I was prescribed Adderall at one point, and somebody had offered it to me. And I think I might have taken too much, or it was just like a higher dosage or whatever. And I remember I was like switching between classes, and I was just kind of like walking up the stairs, like not even fast or anything. And I just noticed that like my heart was racing, and I felt like I was going to pass out. Yeah, that was a terrible, one time. My best friend in high school, who you had in your movie, This Is a War, Matt Mraz. He has a great testimony on there. That was my partner in crime. He was my he was
you
like
just watched it last night,
yeah,
right?
yeah. He was my best friend in high school. He was in freshman and sophomore year. He was like one of the very few people that I had, and we both come from Christian families, and I feel like we were both just influenced from the world around us and the kids around us too. A lot of the kids were not doing great things, and we did a lot of stuff at school on the back of the bus.
So, and you guys, one of the things that you guys were doing was you going to a lot of Christian concerts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my thought is, okay, this is good influence. This is good, but I didn't know that this, some of this stuff was going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we always left that stuff at school. There had only been a few times where we hung out after school and we did things that we shouldn't have. But it was always at school, just because it was pretty much like readily available for us. Like we just had to ask somebody, and it was there. It was just, you didn't have to go far for it. I remember I would it was fairly popular back in the day. I don't know how popular it is now, but it was the K2 or spice or fake marijuana is what it is. And we would it's like odorless, so we would just smoke it on the back of the bus and get away with it because nobody could smell it, could tell. And I actually remember I was doing morning announcements one day, and I was in the principal's office out of my mind, not knowing what I was doing in there. And it was honestly scary, but
yeah. So at about 18, you and I, we kind of parted ways in a way. Mm-hmm. Now, I feel like for the most part, we've had a good relationship. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you have lived your life, and I've been doing my thing. I remember this, and I told you this before, but maybe you have forgotten. I remember the year that you turned 18. Mm-hmm. I had fasted for 40 days for you, praying because I knew that you were going to get your freedom at 18. Mm-hmm. And that was the beginning. That was in January, and your birthday was in February. and I was just really concerned and just praying for you and praying for you. And around that time, you kind of left, and you spent a long time just kind of going from place to place to place, from couch to house,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and sometimes you would bounce back here.
Yeah.
And there were times where I thought you were going to get it straightened out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't hold for you. So, I mean, one of the things, like all of those years that you struggled with, probably the main thing is weed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that had a real grip on you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what was it like? I guess, what were you thinking all that time? Because, I mean, I know you knew that you had a family that loved you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And from our point of view, we kind of looked at you as, I mean, one of the things that came up was selfish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was, man, we feel like Elijah loves us, but it didn't come all the way through. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was our thoughts. And I don't know what you thought about us, but I know that you kind of had the control over the communication.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we would reach out to you sometimes. Man, I remember one time I hadn't heard from you in a couple months, didn't even know where you were and stuff. This was years ago, and I just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, Lord, let him call me. Lord, let him call me. And one day you did.
Yeah.
And but anyway, just kind of sharing my side of the story, what it's like, because I know there are parents out there that can relate with what I'm saying. We hear it all the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what was going on with you? What were your thoughts of home? Because I know there's hurt there. Your parents went through a divorce, mm-hmm. and there's all of that stuff. And, you know, I dealt with that. I dealt with that in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know,
I was just, every kid wants to feel like an adult at some point. And so at points, you know, with you kind of cracking down on me and stuff like that. And we didn't always see eye to eye, or we just, you know, I was doing something dumb or getting myself into trouble. And I just wanted to be free almost. I just wanted to, like, take off. And you know, I don't know, I kind of just wanted to do my own thing. And, you know, I was very kind of just like hypnotized by the feeling that it gave me. And I don't know. I just
you talking about smoking weed?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
that, in a way, and correct me, you put it in your own words, but that in a way became your God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because you went to that for relief. You went to that for, and let me ask you this. Was there any, like, conviction, or were you trying to dull that? I mean, did you feel like, oh man, I need to get right with God? Or
yeah, there definitely was. And I don't know, I just turned a blind eye to it. I just kind of, like, you know, oh, this isn't that bad. Like, it's not, like, I've drank alcohol before, and it is completely different. And that was kind of like my whole thing, is like, oh, you know, it's not killing me. I'm not, you know, I didn't think it was that bad. But just from the years of use that I had on it, really broke me down. But
Well, and I've had people say that to me, hey, be glad he's not using this drug or that drug. And I've thought that because
Yeah.
I've sat at tables with people whose kids were just like the extreme, the super hard drugs. And I took that, I was like, oh wow. I was like, okay, if God can save their son, he can save my son.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Yeah.
just an encouragement to me.
Yeah.
But even though weed is like, the consequences are not like as damaging as quick.
Yeah.
There are consequences to it.
Long-term effects to it. And I don't know. Like, I know other drugs are definitely way worse, but I feel all of them are the same with how they just tear you down. And it's just very deteriorating to like the mind mainly. Weed, for example, made me super lazy and didn't give me any ambition or drive to want to do absolutely anything. And that was something that I kind of lived in for years. And I didn't want to like grow up really. I was just kind of like wanting to be a kid forever. And years went by and I'm 29 now, and I wasted so much time when I could have been doing things that would have been building me up. And yeah.
Well, no. And, you know, that was one of the prayers I had for you. Like, Lord, don't let him waste any more time. Don't let him waste any more time. And while this is going on, you know, and this is, you know, years and years and years really. And really it was 11 years pretty much from the time of 18 to 29, right? So, and I'm praying all kinds of prayers. And people, you know, for that have watched me maybe the last 7 or 8 years, or that have known me a little bit before that because I've been connected with Russ, this is in a way the secret, right? Because I don't share personal stuff about my family, you know, and we don't want to, when you're on air or whatever, you don't want to reveal there's a weakness here or whatever. So I didn't want people to know about this just because I didn't want Elijah to be more of a target or my family to be more of a target, you know, and because we have enemies that do things, you know, and so I'm praying all kinds of prayers. And just for anybody out there that's listening, I think of the widow going before the judge, you know, and I just kept pushing Elijah's name in front of the Lord. And I said, Lord, remember Elijah today. And I wanted to be annoying to the Lord. Like, Lord, Elijah, I want you to remember Elijah. Don't forget about Elijah today. And I just kept bringing his name before him. I said, Lord, this is your son. I said, you know, this is his namesake. You know, somebody said earlier, I love the name Elijah. The name means the Lord is my God. Okay. And named directly after the prophet Elijah. Okay, who had an amazing power encounter and, you know, did everything that he did, and he had a time of weakness and faith as well. So what I did is I prayed all kinds of prayers, and you know, I would fast, and I know that there was a moment of probably around a year ago where you were in a situation where you were riding with somebody. You want to tell that story, like how that, because that seemed to have an impact on you in a way.
Yes. I guess I can skip forward a little bit, but I did a lot of different things. I did in high school, it seemed to be a lot worse of things that I did. I never drank alcohol really. I've always been like way too skinny for it. And, I don't know where I would be if I would have taken alcohol like I did weed, really. Alcohol is just the worst, literally like probably one of the worst drugs out there. Even more so, like I know heroin and meth is very addictive, but alcohol is literally the one thing that kills.
And it's legal.
And it's legal too.
Yeah.
It should be banned, prohibited, all of that. It's not good at all. But in my more recent years, I was dealing with like psychedelics, something that I had never really like messed with until this point. I had taken LSD, shrooms, and ketamine was something else that I did. And I was on my way to a concert in Columbus, and I was living in Kent area. And I was going to a concert with someone, and they were driving. And as we were driving up there, they had taken ketamine while driving, and I was in the passenger seat. And it's a miracle that we even made it there and back that night, because this person could not keep their eyes open, it felt like. And when we got out of the car, I could definitely tell that they were stumbling around, and I don't know, it was really terrifying, and it really kind of just like opened my eyes. And I've smoked weed and driven before. I didn't think that was a big deal, probably just because I had a tolerance to it. But ketamine, I know how debilitating it is. People describe it as being drunk for 45 minutes, and it's absolutely insane to see that person do that next, like while behind the wheel. And it's an absolute.
Well, what did you think when you saw that? I mean, did that kind of
it shook me, honestly. Like it was before even going to the concert, and it kind of ruined the night for me, honestly. Everybody else is doing things, having a good time, and I'm just like kind of like touching the ground, like thank God that I made it here alive. And it was.
Do you think like moments like that like had any impact on you? Like that's one example, but
yeah.
Like I mean, were you thinking like, oh man, I got to get out of this? What were you thinking?
I definitely knew that I had to get out of this, and from that night forward, I had never touched any psychedelics or ketamine again. I was still kind of continuing to smoke weed. But there was a time before that I felt like I needed to stop. And I don't know if I told you this story, but I had an edible, which is edible marijuana, and somebody had given it to me, and I don't know what the amount was, but I just ate it before I was going to bed, and I was like, oh, I'll probably sleep good, whatever. And it woke me up in the middle of the night, and I have never experienced anything like it. It was insane. It felt like I had panoramic view, like in my doorway to my room at my apartment, I knew was a certain like length, and it literally felt like everything was just wide and I could see everything. It freaked me out. I felt like I was dying and I didn't know what to do. I ended up driving myself to the Mansfield Med Central, and I didn't really like want to go in there just because I didn't know like what would happen, but if anything were to happen, I would be like right there. But I ended up driving to the hospital and just sleeping in the parking lot that night.
Oh wow.
I woke up, I don't know at what time, and then I just got up and left. But there's that time where I felt like I was like, okay, like that was like
So
very.
did you
Mhm.
drug use, different types of drug use can
Mhm.
open up doors to like spiritual attacks.
Yeah.
Did you ever experience anything like dark spiritual attack, like sleep paralysis or things like this out there?
I didn't really experience sleep paralysis. I only experienced sleep paralysis when I was like younger, probably when I was living in the house.
Mhm.
But there, I don't know if it was necessarily a spiritual attack, but you do think of things differently than what you would when you're just sober. So that, in a sense, I feel like could be a spiritual attack because it gives you ideas that may not be of God. And I couldn't tell you exactly what I was thinking on a lot of these trips I took, I guess you could say. But it.
Now, I know there was a time, it was a couple years ago, where you were coming to my house because something was going on. You had some kind of fear and you didn't want to be alone. So
Yeah.
you would drive up here and stay the night at my house.
Yeah.
So
I'm
do you
trying to
remember that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think at what point that was.
So, I mean, obviously, just kind of sharing from somebody that's been there, the experiences, and what happens, long time using and things like that. So, I every once in a while I would track you down, okay,
Yeah.
because I didn't know where you were, and I would have to investigate sometimes, and try to find a way to call you. Sometimes your numbers changed, and you didn't return a lot of calls or texts. So, I tracked you down up in Canton one time, and I shared with people that was the day that I filmed the video I did, remembering Russ. I got to see Elijah that day, and I didn't even know. And one of the reasons that you kind of moved out of town is because you found some friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I've been all over Ohio, and I guess they appealed to me because it was just like I had friends in high school, but I never had like a big like group of friends like them, I guess. Like I kind of always dreamed of in high school, where everybody, like 20 people or so, I guess, is just all friends.
Right.
And that really like appealed to me. And I was just kind of like blinded by that. And also like I knew that's where I could get these things that made me feel good. And that really kind of just like put the blinders on everything else that really mattered to me, Uh-oh.
I don't know if you can still. I don't know what just happened there. Hold on. Okay. For some reason, we lost you.
Oh, okay. You know, you guys, I could hear everything you guys were saying, but your screen was frozen.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're back. It's frozen now, but
Yeah.
can you
Yep, I can hear you.
hear for whatever's going on? So I'll just make sure that's plugged in. So yeah. Anyway, so Elijah, we can't go over all of the things, but we wanna kind of send a message out like we have been to parents and grandparents, just about the experiences. And I feel like we need to be strategic in how we engage our kids. Okay. It was said perfectly before, love them. Love them. But what does that mean? I thought that I was, that was my idea of what was going on, is I was loving him. But it was backfiring in a way, and it was kind of I don't know, I feel like it was kind of an insensitive way. Maybe I could have just found a way to draw closer to Elijah and say, hey, let's have a deeper talk about this, or let's find out what's going on, because a lot of this stuff I didn't know about. And so anyway, we can talk about whatever, and if you want to mention something else that you feel is important. But so we can fast forward to about 4 or 5 months ago, and you were kind of in a situation that wasn't a good situation. And even a little bit further back than that, you were really close to coming home. And I thought you were going to. And I had just been praying and fasting for you in the month of April. And it was actually my 50th birthday party was coming up. And man, the one thing that you won is you won all your kids there, for your 50th birthday party, or that, I sound like my grandpa, and I always had anxiety around those days, because I never knew what you were going to do. And I always wanted you there, like anytime, whether it was a holiday or something like that. And it just caused me so much anxiety trying to find out if you were going to be there or not. And that was similar, but I just kind of, you just put it in God's hands and you move on. And I thought, you know what? If it doesn't work out, then it doesn't matter, because I really felt that Elijah was going to be coming home. Okay. And what happened was, instead of coming home, he actually moved further away. And I was just like, okay, God, I know you're doing something, but I don't see it. I don't see it, but I know you're doing something. And that's the way I prayed for a long time. I said, Lord, I know you're protecting him. I know that you are working on him. I know that you are moving, in a way that I can't see, but I don't see it. I just trust you to do it. And I just kept praying and praying. And I felt like I was going to get that call one day. And I actually did get that call. And that was right around the 4th of July. And you called me. It was late at night. And I thought I was going to have to go get you that night. But I went and got you the next morning and brought you home with me, with us. And you've been home ever since. And this time it's been different. Okay. And it's been very noticeably different. Everybody, your family, okay, your mom, your stepmom, your stepdad, your brothers and sisters have noticed, okay, we think this is legit this time. Okay. Because you've been home before, and there's kind of a cycle in your life, right? You would come home and you would get your life straightened out, and then when you go out and you would crash and burn. And then when you had when you were basically homeless, you would come home again, and then you would get everything straightened out, get back on top, get a job, get a car, then you were gone. So anyway, you came home. It's been about 5 months now. And there has been a major change than when you came home before, and in your life, than I've ever seen. What's different now?
so much is different now, honestly. Firstly, I've broken that hold that it had on me, and the main thing was marijuana. It had gotten me absolutely nowhere. Was all that I could focus on for years, and it just fed into my depression. Like I was just, I had social anxiety, and it I don't know, it just completely like broke down my mind. It felt like, and ever since just being off that and away and just being in at home has been so amazing. That
What? How did you? I mean, how did that happen this time? How did you break it?
I quit cold turkey. Honestly, like I knew that every single thing that I like, that was pretty much the catalyst of why I like things were like I would be so, I wouldn't say like strung out, but that's kind of like what it was. Like that's all I could focus on, and I just had to break the cycle of being stuck in that, of just wanting to get high all the time. And
when you came home, what did you think was going to happen? Did you have in your mind that the cycle was going to continue, or did you have in your mind you're going to quit?
I had in mind pretty much that I was just done, that I didn't want it to be a part of my life anymore. I kind of had enough, honestly. And I knew that it was like a long time coming, and I just held on to it for so long. And I don't know why. I wanted to keep feeling the way that I felt, and it wasn't bringing me anything but the opposite of how it was making me feel, really, because it makes you feel good, but it doesn't make your life good.
Yeah. I'm going to try to remove this and then bring it back in and see if it fixes the screen real quick. Let's see what happens.
Hopefully we'll get this figured out.
Nope. It looks like, I don't know why, but we're just going to deal with it. So anyway, at least it's a halfway decent pose.
Yeah.
So somebody said, I think Tom's prayers kicked in. You know, not only my prayers, but a lot of people's prayers. And obviously Elijah had a lot of people praying for him. And, you know, his mom and I, we have, even though a long time ago when Elijah was about 10 years old, even though we have been divorced, we've still been allies in raising our kids, right? So Elijah's mom and I have strategized many times on how can we help Elijah? How can we pray for Elijah? Okay. And we've just kind of, you know, shared, you know, prayer requests or, you know, information and things like this. So parents that are praying, grandmother that's praying, you know, other people that are praying and believing. And I just prayed every time, just like, you know what, God, I don't see anything, but I just know you're going to do it. I just know you're going to do it. And one of the prayers I prayed was that he would just get done with using weed. And I knew that had a grip on your life, you know?
Yeah.
So, so where, like, you came home, and where does God fit into all this? Like, what happened with that? What was your thought process? Because I kind of noticed, like, okay, something's different. And I felt comfortable enough to ask you to come with me to the conference, just to ask you to come down there, and we've gotten so much feedback from that, right?
Mhm.
Where people have just said, wow, that was so inspiring. But what is your thought process these last few months, and where does God fit in?
Well, firstly, I wasn't sure if God was with me over the years. Like, I just felt kind of alone. A lot of like traumatic things had happened to me in my life, and I was just kind of like making myself feel good and trying to, I guess, kind of like find God in the things that I was doing, trying to give myself like, I don't know, just from the things that I was taking, or just, especially like some of the psychedelics, like, I don't know, I wanted to see something to believe in, or,
Mm.
but, uh,
So in the last few months, like what has been kind of your thought process? Because when you came back, in the beginning, I said, hey, if you want to come to church with us, you can. But
mhm.
I asked you one time, and that was basically it,
Yeah.
And we, um, you know, th- things have happened, and again, we just noticed a difference.
Yeah.
When you come home in the past, you were isolated,
Yeah.
but you weren't isolated. You were spending time with all of us,
Yeah.
and you were answering the phone calls and returning the text, and something was different.
Mm-hmm.
So we could tell that something was changing with you. So yeah, again, how was your, what was going on?
I just kind of felt free from everything. I don't know. It was kind of amazing, honestly, just because anytime when I've been home in the past, it was like, okay, how am I getting out? Like, what do I got to do to get in and get out, and just kind of like be on my own again? But every single time it ended with me getting involved with drugs, and then it just completely like wrecking everything. And um this time, like I'm 29 and have like nothing to show for myself. This time I just I wanted to do things right. I didn't want to have to be that 29 or 31-year-old that has to move back in with their parents, or just constantly, or you know um and I knew that, yeah, that all that stuff has gotten me nowhere. And um I've been running away from it for a long time now, just my relationship with God. And I know that's one thing that was to like help me, like set me free from all of this. And
So let me ask you this, Elijah, and folks, we're still frozen on the screen if you're wondering what's going on. But can you look back and see how God protected you and that God loved you?
100%. Just from the experience that I had while in the car, to the one time where I had I had to drive to the hospital and sleep in the parking lot. Um, and there's many other things that happened, but it's a miracle that I am still here, honestly, because anything could have went wrong. And I was doing a lot of dumb things, and
Well, I agree with that. I believe it is a miracle, and we serve a God that does miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And Vic, and I want to give you a chance to kind of jump in here too. And I want to ask Elijah like what he sees from here on out. We've been spending a lot of time together, and Elijah, you were here 1 week. You got here on a Sunday, and then that following Sunday, you told me, Dad, I'm so glad to be home. I am so glad to be home, and there's no place else I would rather be right now.
Mm-hmm.
And to hear those words come out of your mouth, I'm just like, I'm kind of torn because I'm like, okay, is this real? Because we've been through this before,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I really felt that it was legit, okay, and that it was something. And of course, I'm sharing this information, with other people and just the good news, and I called your mom and I said, man, Elijah told me this, and so just keep praying, and
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts? Let me ask you this. When we went down to the Go Therefore conference, and I just kind of sneakily asked you, hey, you mind if I share a little bit of this story? Yeah. But I don't know if you knew that it was going to be that.
Yeah, no. I'm not sure who's all seen that or was there, or I know it was online.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And he told me that I thought it was just going to be a section, but it was like a whole other half of his talk was about that. But your whole, I don't know, I was crying like a baby, first of all.
So was everybody around.
Yeah. I was not expecting that, but it also felt like what you were talking about was for me. Like it didn't, like, I know it was for everybody else, but I don't know. I felt like me and you were the only one in the room, and you were just, what you had to talk about was for me.
Yeah.
And
it was the title, I think it was called Take Your Life Back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So well, that's cool, and I didn't realize that you had felt that way. And so, man, there's been some cool stuff that's happened. I never dreamed that you would get to go with me to a conference,
Mm-hmm.
and you were kind of sitting up in the green room and watching Coach Dave on the screen. And I'm like, man, I can't believe this is happening right now.
Yeah.
My oldest son is watching Coach Dave. I never thought I'd be in a situation where that would happen.
Yeah.
And Vic, I just prayed, Lord, bring my son home. And you know what I prayed? I will say this. I will say this. And this is a real prayer that I prayed. I said, Lord, I don't want Elijah to come back to me. I want him to come back to you. And I said, if he comes back to you and you send him wherever, I'm okay with it. I'm a very affectionate, emotional kind of guy. I like my family close to me. Okay. And we're huggers, you know what I'm saying? And we're close and we're affectionate. And I like being close, and it's a good thing. And Elijah came back, and I felt like we had such a good time catching up, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
On all the lost time. And we were sharing just all kinds of jokes and music and stories and everything. And we just had a blast, really. But I can recognize, that God is moving in your life, and that things have changed, and that you are growing.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, a couple things, like you told me, I recommended to you, I've been talking to you, as encouragement about taking a course. You want to share about a course that you're taking?
Yes. I am taking Russ Dizdar courses. They are on Through the Black website. First one is Confronting the Powers.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sessions, but yeah.
So like, is anything like, there we go. Katie's on top of it. So, anything like, how do you feel about like learning from Russ? Or
Russ is an awesome dude. He baptized me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how long ago, but you know, I
You
wish,
knew Russ, yeah.
I knew him, and he, you know, I kind of like regret the things that I was doing because I wish I could have been around him more to just like learn like you did because you know,
He was a real deal.
yeah, and you could just like being around him too, you could just tell that the love of God was just like radiating off of him. And
Yeah. It's just, to be in a room with Russ Dizdar, you can't really have a bad day.
no.
You know, unless you're a demon.
Yeah.
But and of course, this is something that I shared with Russ, and Russ prayed for you and prayed with me and encouraged me, and it's been over 2 years. I can't believe it's been over 2 years since we lost Russ, but so cool. So you've been taking the course, and in any like he's a really good teacher, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is there anything that like kind of sticks out to you, or
He's very, very thorough, and he's got kind of like a soothing voice too, so you can just listen to him for hours. And it's a good thing too because there's like I don't know how many courses, probably like 12, and there's like sub like parts to some of the courses. But it's I don't know, yeah, I really enjoy it so far, and it's a lot of information to take in.
it is.
So
It's like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you're tuning in tonight, sorry that the screen is frozen. We are here live. Something's going on, but we're not going to let that stop us. And for anybody that's coming real late, we're coming up on an hour and 30 minutes, but it is the testimony, that just the story of my prodigal son, Elijah, coming home. And, it's kind of crazy because I have a Wednesday night prayer drive that I do. And my friend Rob, his son, I watched his son just kind of go through some struggles and stuff. And, he would share things with me and about praying for his son and stuff. And things in his life began to work out. And, I'm rejoicing and I'm celebrating with Rob. I'm like, man, I am so happy for you that these cool things are happening, and stuff. And it's such a good thing. And we're out driving, praying for you.
Yeah.
And then I call Rob one day and I said, Elijah's home. And I'm giving him, the updates and what's going on.
Yeah.
And now almost every Wednesday we go out, it gets brought up. It's like, wow, this was a prayer request. This is something that we prayed about together, for a while. And now it's a reality. So, for anybody out there, don't give up. Don't give up on the prodigals, okay? Don't quit praying. God answers prayer even if we don't see it. And, like I said, I just kept pushing Elijah's name in front of the Lord. I just said, Lord, remember Elijah today. Remember Elijah today. Protect him. Watch over him, and just prayed and believed. Elijah, we talked about a lot of stuff. Anything else about these next few months? I want to ask you that. And then I want to ask you where do you see yourself going? But anything else, that stands out about these last few months?
One thing that I wanted to bring up that I haven't yet was just back when it really kind of like all began, and not just then, but throughout from when you started, learning about new things and kind of, started wanting to just protect me, and you were stepping into a new realm of ministry. You'll have to help me with the verse, but you were getting into your new ministry, and the devil doesn't like that at all, not one bit. He absolutely despises that you're doing what you're doing, and he is a roaring lion prowling around seeking to whom he may devour.
Right. And Peter.
And he wants to stop you at anything or any way possible. And if he can't get to you, he'll get to somebody that's close to you.
Yeah.
And that's something that I firmly believe has happened to me. I had a lot of traumatic things happen to me in my life, and I just wanted to, I don't know, I definitely feel like I not only you had a target on your back, but I had a target on my back too, but I didn't know how to fully combat that or,
Right.
go against that.
Well, yeah, and that's something that we've talked about a lot, and there is blowback from getting involved in the fight, and especially at this level. So, and I've said it once, I'll say it a million times. Thank you for the prayers, for when you pray for Vicky and myself and everybody behind the scenes, Katie and her family and our families and Colleen and Pastor Sean. There's things that go on that we don't share with anybody. Okay. And I knew, obviously about my son, and my heart ached because he was gone. But I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm going to go after every kid I can, every person I can. If you send somebody after my son, I honestly didn't know that I was going to be involved in that. I was okay not being involved in it, but I'm so happy too. You know what I mean? And it's man, it's just been so amazing these last few months. And my wife is just blown away. She was like, she's like, this is a miracle. This is a miracle to have him home. And it is. And God does miracles. So, Vic, anything that you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got something I want to say to the listeners, and then there's something I want to say to Elijah. So for the listeners, Tom, I think the reason why everyone was on their feet at Go Therefore when you were talking about Elijah, and then he was there and you guys embraced, everyone was on their feet clapping and crying, because I think everyone there was vicariously enjoying that moment, because I don't think there was probably anyone there that hadn't had some sort of a prodigal in their life at one time or at present. And so we're vicariously taking the joy of that in putting it towards the future grace that we're looking for our own family member. And our hope was sort of reignited at that moment, that it doesn't matter how many years have gone by. But another thing that can happen, and this is what I want to tell the listeners, is the enemy can then get in our heads too and be like, well, I've been praying for my family member for longer than that, and how come my family member isn't saved yet? Or and so then there's all these thoughts can enter into our head about, like, well, are they more spiritual, or is God mad at me, or do I deserve this, or what am I doing wrong? And there can be this downward spiral. And I just want to encourage everybody to take every thought captive. There are many different variables as to the timing of God. There's a whole bunch of different moving parts in each individual, and what doors they've opened, or all the things involved. So if there's someone out there who's been praying for their son for 6 months and he comes back, and it's for you, it's 30 years, don't look at that as some sort of an indictment of your spirituality or your power of prayer or your faith. Just keep praying and don't be discouraged. And so I just really feel like I just know that there's a double-edged sword to these sorts of shows. There's the victory, there's the joy, there's the rejoicing. People can walk away full of hope, but the enemy can also attack, and people can walk away hopeless. How come his son came back and mine didn't? And so just really fight against that spirit of self-pity, because what that really is an indictment against God, that he's not a promise keeper, that he doesn't love you. And anytime we start believing wrong things about God's character, it's just a downward spiral from there. So just keep preaching to yourself that he loves your son too, your daughter, your grandchild, and don't give up hope. Keep praying. And Elijah, just the one thing I want to say to you really quick is, I know that 29 years seems like a long time to you because it's the whole of your life up to this point. But you are so young and you have so much life ahead of you. And everybody knows I have a prodigal brother. He's been gone for 32 years. He left when he was 18 as well. He's 53 now and in as bad a shape now as he was 32 years ago. We have seen the needle has moved a micro inch in 32 years by way of seeing any sort of progress. He's a meth addict and a lot of bitterness against the Lord and against the family. And so the prayer that I pray for him the most often is that God will restore to him all of the years the moths have eaten. And we know even just from Jesus's ministry, look at how much he accomplished in a handful of years. He changed the world in like 1 to 3.5 years, depending on whose book you're reading. And, you know, Jesus changed the world in a handful of years. And so I just want to encourage you that he can restore to you all the years the moths have eaten. And he can take you at age 29 and breathe on you, and there's no turning back, man. So just don't let the enemy discourage you in that area. The past is in the past. He makes all things new. You're a new creation now. It's just full speed ahead now.
Thank you.
So speaking of moving ahead, and we can't cover it all, and there's I think we've just kind of covered so much that's going to mean a lot to a lot of people tonight. But one of the things that you said to me when you came back, shortly after you came back, you said, Dad, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to that lifestyle. And I wasn't sure exactly what's going on or where you're at. So let me ask you now, where from here, what are your priorities? Where do you want to go?
Well, firstly, I want to truly learn what it means to put on the full armor of God. I would love to completely just protect myself from allowing anything like this to ever happen to me again. I am going to finish these courses. And I would love to be able to just help people that suffered from the same things that I've gone through. And I'm not sure what that will look like. And I'm not sure what the Lord will call me to do. But that is one thing that I personally myself would like to do, is help other people that have been stuck in this same just mindset of what I was doing. So
well, and this is what we hear all the time, right? Is the people that came out of it, they're the ones that go back in, to help the other ones, because once you experience true freedom, and this gift, you want to share it with everybody, because it feels so amazing, So, well, son, I just want to say I am so impressed and so proud of you and so thankful for you. And I am even more thankful to God for giving me the gift of Elijah 29, almost 30 years ago, actually. Yeah. And man, that time went by in 5 minutes, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, because when Elijah was born, I was looking at my dad, he was the old dude, and now I am. And of course, man, I know it's hour 39, but just a few more things just to give God praise. All the timing of Elijah coming back was so key, and just some very key things that happened in our family. And it was so important for him to be here. He lost a grandmother shortly after he got back, so he got to be with the family for that. And then we got the news that he's going to be an uncle. I'm going to be a grandpa. His sister's having a baby. He was here for that, and just so many super cool things that just worked out timing wise. And I tell you what, I believe God can do anything. I don't believe there's anything that he can't do. And I don't think that there is necessarily a wrong way to pray. We just pray from our heart, sincerely, and we pray out of love, Lord, remember this person, remember that person. And I just want to encourage people, don't give up. There's nothing special about me. God will not cross free will. Okay. And if Elijah or me or you or anybody listening decided to, we could turn our back on God tomorrow. We could do things, you know what I'm saying? And live for ourselves. So, but the timing was right. God answered prayer, and Elijah was tired of it. So anyway, any closing thoughts, Elijah?
I wanted to say, I don't know where I would have been or what would have happened if I wouldn't have had you, because you came after me so many times and met with me so many times while I was out doing my thing, and not like every single time, like I felt like it just pushed me away further, but that was one thing that I always had in the back of my mind, knowing that, like what you were doing, you were praying for me and just really pulling for me. And it really, I don't know, it really helped, honestly. Like I said, although at times it felt like it pushed me away further, but I don't know.
I wanted to make sure you knew that you were loved.
Yeah.
And one of the great things about having you home, Elijah, is I'm not wondering where you're at. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, Lord, is there anybody that cares about him? Is he eating tonight? Does he have a place to sleep? I didn't even know,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I thought, are the people that he's with treating him right? And I always thought, like, those thoughts would always come to me around dinner time, and I would think about those things. And now you're eating dinner with us many nights.
Yeah.
And it's just so good to have you at the table again. And you're hanging out here till you get established again. And you are going to be in a better place when you leave here than you've ever been before. And so, yeah. But folks, God is good. God is faithful. And I just give God all the praise. And I can't quit thanking him. I've been thanking him for months for what he's been doing. So, Vic, I want to give you the final your final word tonight as we just kind of close this out?
Yeah. Well, I'm really encouraged, you guys. You guys have both encouraged me. You know, the last time Dad and I went to see my brother, we had an amazing visit. So that, coupled with just the testimony I just heard, has given me sort of new life and hope for my own brother. But Elijah, I'm so happy for you. And Tom, it's been so fun just being friends with you for years, and just the noticeable, like, extra pep in your voice as since Elijah came home. And there's nothing like vicariously enjoying the joy of the people you care about. And so it's just been fun for me as your friend to see that joy overflowing in you, and it's been contagious. And so I'm just happy for both of you, and praise Jesus. And all of you with prodigals out there, just keep the faith and keep annoying God to death with your requests for your loved ones.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Vicki. Guys, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. Don't forget nomoredeadbabies.com. Go there and get a free shirt. Join the movement. We want you to order the shirt, to wear the shirt, to pray, and we want you to share that information so other people can get a shirt and rise up and pray to stop abortion. Guys, we will see you next time. God bless.
Put your magic twanger, Froggy.